Society has spent centuries calling it weakness. But the science calls it something else entirely. If you have ever excused yourself from a room because you felt tears coming, this video is going to change the way you see yourself forever. Here is a fact that most people never hear. People who cry easily may actually have stronger emotional control than people who never cry at all. That is not an opinion, that is neuroscience. And by the end of this, you will understand exactly why suppressing your tears is far more dangerous to your mind and body than letting them fall. Picture this. You are sitting in a meeting. Everything is fine, and then someone gives you feedback you were not expecting. Or maybe a colleague mentions something offhand, something small, and it touches something much larger inside you. And before you can stop it, your eyes fill. You feel your throat tighten, and every part of you is now focused on one desperate mission. Do not let them see it. And what's happening in your brain in that moment is almost the opposite of what the room thinks it means. Because we all know the unspoken rule, don't we? The room has a code. Composure is professionalism. Composure is strength. And somewhere along the way, you internalized that rule so deeply that your own tears started to feel like a betrayal, like evidence of something broken inside you. I want to spend the next few minutes dismantling that idea completely, not with reassurances, not with platitudes about being sensitive souls, but with the actual science of what is happening in your brain and body when you cry, and what it reveals about the people who can't. Because here is the truth no one told you. The people who cry easily are not the fragile ones. They are the ones who never learn to lie to themselves. And there is a specific psychological term for what they carry. Something most people don't have. And we'll get to that in a moment. Think about where you learn not to cry. For most of us, it started young. A scraped knee. Stop crying, you're fine, a bad day at school, don't be so sensitive. A moment of real fear or grief that a trusted adult responded to with discomfort. With a tightened jaw, a quick subject change, a toughen up. Not out of cruelty, usually out of their own inability to sit with feeling. But the message landed anyway. Your emotions are too much. Learn to manage them. Better yet, learn to hide them. So we built armor. Slowly, almost invisibly, we taught ourselves to catch the feeling before it surfaced, to breathe through it, to redirect it, to perform steadiness we didn't actually feel. And we got very good at it, so good that we forgot it was even armor. We just thought we were being mature, professional, collected. But armor has a cost. Ask anyone who has been wearing it for years and they will describe it for you in physical terms, not emotional ones. A tightness in the chest that never fully releases. A jaw they clench without realizing it. A tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. Emotions don't disappear when we push them down. They go somewhere else, they ferment. They turn into the low-grade anxiety that hums beneath everything. The irritability that surprises even you. The sudden numbness on a day when you expected to feel something and found nothing there at all. Think about the last time you felt something sharp in a conversation and chose to say, "I'm fine." Not because you were, but because the alternative felt like too much to explain to someone who wasn't ready to hear it. That is not strength. That is a dam that is quietly straining under pressure it was never designed to hold forever. If that landed, hit like. It tells me this kind of content is worth making more of. And if you want the science behind why you feel things this deeply, stay with me, because that's exactly where we're going next. So, that psychological term I mentioned, the one that describes what sensitive people carry, it is called emotional granularity. Let me put that differently, because I think you've actually experienced this. You just didn't have a name for it. Have you ever been in a conversation you could feel something shifting in the other person before they said a word? That's not intuition as magic. That's your nervous system doing something extraordinary. Researchers who study emotion have found that some people experience their feelings in high resolution, the way an audiophile hears a piece of music differently from someone listening through a cheap speaker. They don't just feel bad. They feel the specific texture of grief, or the precise weight of disappointment, or the exact ache of longing. They can locate it, name it, navigate it in real time. This is the opposite of a condition called alexithymia, a term for the difficulty in identifying and describing your own emotions. And people with high emotional granularity tend to have significantly lower alexithymia. They don't just feel more. They understand what they feel more accurately. And that precision is not a liability. It is a gift, because here is what comes with that gift. The capacity to sit with another person's pain without flinching. the ability to notice what someone isn't saying, the instinct to hold space, real space, not the performative kind, for someone in a hard moment. Research consistently links high emotional sensitivity with deeper empathy, stronger interpersonal bonds, and greater attunement to the people around you. These are not accidental side effects. They are the same root. The nervous system of a highly sensitive person is not broken, it is finely tuned. And like any finely tuned instrument, it picks up frequencies that others simply don't register. That is not a flaw in the design. That is the design working exactly as intended. Now here is the part that most people have completely backwards. And this is the reframe that I think matters most. We are told relentlessly from every direction that crying means losing control. That when the tears come, you have failed to regulate yourself. That stoic equals steady and emotional equals unstable. It sounds logical. It even feels logical if you have spent years operating under that assumption. But the physiology tells a completely different story. When you cry, your body releases oxytocin and endorphins, natural compounds that reduce stress and restore a sense of safety. Emotional tears, specifically, the kind that come with grief or overwhelm or deep feeling, carry cortisol out of the body. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. When you cry, you are literally flushing stress chemistry out through your tear ducts. Your nervous system comes back into balance. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. The pressure releases. Crying is not losing control. Crying is your body's most intelligent built-in regulation system doing exactly what it evolved to do. Now ask yourself what happens when you don't. When you swallow it, redirect it, breathe through it, push it down. That cortisol doesn't go anywhere. That stress chemistry stays in circulation. It keeps your nervous system in low-grade activation, which over time starts to look like anxiety, like insomnia, like the kind of exhaustion that doesn't respond to rest. The people who never cry aren't more regulated. In many cases, they are the most dysregulated people in the room. They have just trained themselves to stop registering the signal. And here is the part that actually surprised me when I first learned it. And I'll come back to it. The research on long-term emotional suppression and physical health outcomes is not subtle. We'll get there. But first, let's talk about shame. Because for most sensitive people, the pain is not just in the feeling. It is in the exhausting layer of self-judgment that comes right after the feeling. The internal monologue that starts the moment you notice your eyes filling. Why are you crying right now? This is ridiculous. Get it together, you always do this. And it is not just internal. There is the moment in the argument when the tears come and the other person says, frustrated, "See, this is why I can't have a conversation with you." As if your emotion is a tactic, as if the tears are manipulation. There is the meeting at work where you hold it together until the elevator, and then you ride 14 floors in silence, hoping no one gets on. There is the loneliness of being the person who always tears up at the thing no one else in the room is visibly moved by. The commercial, the song, the small story someone tells that lands differently for you than it does for everyone else. And then there is just the silence of driving home and wondering whether something is actually wrong with you. I know that silence, that loneliness is real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. Being the most feeling person in a room full of people performing their composure, that is genuinely isolating. It can make you feel like there is something wrong with the volume of your own heart. But here is what is actually happening. Sensitive people don't make others uncomfortable because something is wrong with them. They make others uncomfortable because they are reflecting back everything the room is working hard to suppress. When you cry at something, you are naming an emotion that others are also feeling and pretending not to. Your tears are, in a very real sense, a mirror, and that mirror is threatening. Not because you are too much, but because your presence asks others to feel something they have spent years learning not to. Now, the research I mentioned about long-term suppression. Studies have linked chronic emotional suppression to increased rates of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune response, and higher levels of reported physical pain. The body keeps score, the armor isn't free. Wearing it for decades costs something, and the invoice often arrives as illness. Sensitive people who cry tend to pay that invoice in real time in small amounts. People who suppress tend to defer it until the body stops asking politely. So let me come back to the question I want to leave you with. When was the last time you cried without apologizing for it? Without explaining yourself? Without the automatic follow-up of, "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm being like this." without quietly promising yourself it won't happen again. Because here is what I think you actually are, if you cry easily. You are someone who processes in real time. You are someone who doesn't carry yesterday's grief into tomorrow because you didn't bury it yesterday. You felt it, released it, and moved forward. You are someone who loves at full volume, creates from a deep well, and holds space for others in a way that people who have sealed themselves off simply cannot. Not because they don't want to, but because they have forgotten how to stay open long enough to feel something fully. That is not fragility. That is a specific kind of courage. The kind that requires you to stay soft in a world that has been trying very hard to convince you to become armor. Staying open costs something. It means feeling the things that other people walk past without registering. It means being moved when everyone else is busy looking composed. It means that grief actually lands, and joy actually lands, and beauty actually lands. In their full weight, every time. That is not a curse. That is being alive in the truest sense of the word. You don't owe anyone your numbness. You never did. The strength was never in the clenched jaw or the steady voice. The strength was always in staying present for your own experience. In refusing to lie to yourself about what you feel, even when the whole room is doing exactly that. That is where courage actually lives. Not in composure, in honesty. In the willingness to be fully, visibly, unapologetically human. And the next time the tears come somewhere, they're not supposed to. I hope somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember this. They are not evidence of weakness. They are evidence that you are still paying attention, that you haven't gone numb, that the instrument is still working, that is something worth protecting. I want to ask you something before you go. Do you cry easily? And has someone ever made you feel like that was a problem? A partner, a parent, a colleague, anyone? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and I genuinely want to know what that experience has looked like for you. You might also find that someone else in the comments needed to read exactly what you wrote. And if this changed how you see yourself even slightly, a like takes 1 second and helps someone else find this who needs it just as much as you did. And if this is the kind of psychology that actually makes you see yourself and the people around you differently, that is exactly what this channel is for. If this is the first time psychology has actually made you feel less alone, that is exactly what this channel is built for. Subscribe, because next week goes somewhere just as deep. The next one goes somewhere I think you'll find just as disorienting, in the best possible way.